episode 10. Some would say it would not have happened. Some would say it wouldn't have gotten this far.
I'm not so sure it has happened.
Oh, yeah, whatever. Yeah, it has happened. Tenacity. Yeah. There's something to be said for tenacity.
Stiction.
Yes. If I'm anything, I'm tenacious.
Stiction's actually a word. It's a word used to describe how lubricants will stick to metal, because oil, you don't want oil to just run right off a metal. You want it to kind of stay there so that it stays as a lubricant. So I learned in working on high performance motors many years ago the term stiction. So
right.
Useless information.
So how was your week?
My week was interesting. As many know, I lost my hearing in this ear and never could hear very well in this ear. And as a result, I can't tune guitars by ear anymore. Bless you.
Jeez, what's going on? Okay,
you need a pressure relief valve is what you need. So I had an MRI and everything, blah, blah, blah. And they want to do this thing. They're going to put a hole in my eardrum and inject liquid prednisone.
All right.
So before I got to that, I wanted to try something else. So I went to my first acupuncture meeting yesterday.
All right. And by meeting, you mean what?
Well, it was an actual appointment. I met with the doctor. He's it's at Tianxi acupuncture on Lingelstown Road, Harrisburg, and it went really well. It's kind of weird laying there on a table with a bunch of needles sticking out of you, but I don't know what I expected. I left there not feeling any different, but it's going to take a few visits. But the idea of acupuncture makes a lot of sense. What they're going to do is try to redirect the flow of energy throughout the body.
Okay.
And that makes perfect sense to me. So I'll keep you updated on that.
What did he say as far as treatment?
We're going to do 6 sessions like twice a week, and then he says it's going to take probably up to 12 sessions before we're going to really see things change. But he's also going to work on my back pain. So,
okay.
We'll see what I
do stuff.
You know what? I get on a motorcycle and I look for a road I haven't been on. So going to do this is pretty much the same thing. I'm interested to see where I end up.
Yeah, that's the way to be.
Yeah, well, that's what life is all about.
Yeah.
The people that sit in the same room and eat the same food and watch the same TV shows and listen to the same music. I mean, that would kill me. Yeah. So we'll see where I end up.
You mean both?
How was your week?
My week was good.
My week
was good. I'm trying to get my health in order. That's my big thing.
Oh, yeah?
You got to make positive change in your life. And for me, positive change, I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do if I can't get, out in the woods and hiking and walking off excess weight and building muscle and moving. And, COVID's done a thing to me. I don't say I gained a bunch of weight with COVID, but it's I didn't leave the house because I was never home before COVID, and I would be everywhere, and it's like
right.
moving around is good for you. Movement is good for you. So I got to get back to that.
Well, makes you a smaller target for those that would be shooting at you.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Not saying.
So getting healthy.
Getting healthy is always good.
I say this to everybody because I follow my people on social media, and I see what they're talking about, and it's like, you don't have your health, you don't have anything. You don't, because things are going to go down. Things are going to go downhill quick. Health is wealth, is what it is. That is richness. And I'm trying to keep that in mind. And it's like,
well, I'm in the lower middle class then. If health is wealth, I'm in the lower middle class.
Yeah, and I'm praying for you as far as
I'm getting by.
The ear situation.
It sucks. But you know what? It's survivable. If I have to get hearing aids, I'll get hearing aids, you know.
Yes, and I'm not far behind. That's the other thing.
What?
I am. Again, you got me. I'm not far behind.
What?
Yeah, deaf jokes are always funny.
What?
So, anyway,
Hey,
your week at the bench, on the
at the
bench,
bench.
on the bench, at the bench. Well, your week consisted of.
Well, this pick guard was the original pick guard on the Black Karina project bass. And I wasn't really happy with it. And Sarah said it looked like a bikini bottom. And that was all I needed.
It's a.
Here's on the guitar, when I had made the guard for the guitar,
Mhm.
I like the proportion of that. I made this one second.
Yeah.
And the other thing is on the guitar, when I cut the telly bridge out, I actually cut it out to match the route. You see that
Yeah.
right there, right? And I thought that's kind of a cool thing that I'd like to continue onto the bass, but how do I do that? Because the pick guard didn't come anywhere near the pickup.
Yeah.
So I made the pick guard larger and it gets cut out for the pickup.
Mhm.
So the theme of having something cut away,
Yes.
and then also this is a larger piece, a little bit longer, a little bit fatter,
Mhm.
and it works in proportion with the guitar
Yeah.
body size.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I'm really going to hate giving these up. I'm really going to hate giving these up. But
surprised at the and you said it was a lighter wood.
it is. Yeah, Karina is very light.
And I was surprised. I don't know why I was surprised because you said it was a lighter wood.
But
Yes.
the cool thing is this thing, well, as you saw the other day when you were here, this thing sustains like crazy. Now, this is about the same weight as any other bass because it's Black Karina, so it's got a lot of the minerals in it. The wood grew in a very damp environment, so the tree drew all kinds of minerals up, and that's what you're seeing.
Mhm.
Especially if you look at the end grain. And then the maple neck. But it's just a really, really cool bass. And the pickup was custom wound to my spec by my buddy Jeff Richard
Okay.
at Carondelet Pickups down in Nolens.
All right.
Nolens.
Mhm.
And so credit to him. And it sounds exactly the way I wanted it to sound. A little bit bright, very, very punchy. And when the identity of the owner is revealed, then it'll all make perfect sense. And all kinds of people have guessed all kinds of things, and I'm just not telling you. But I will say that I contacted the owner and said, "Hey, I'm playing bass with my girlfriend's country band, the Grant Bryan Band, this weekend. I think I'm taking your bass out to a gig." And he said to me, "Don't scratch it."
Oh, hold on. Okay, I got a screenshot of that.
Just send that to me because I'll send it to him.
Right.
Another cool feature, if you looked at the pictures when I was producing it, people wanted to know what this was about. Well, the idea is, since it's a reverse body, the strap would ordinarily hang here. So since it's backwards, this cutaway is so much farther back that if we attach the strap as we ordinarily would,
Yeah.
it would be very neck heavy.
Yeah.
So what that does is it's almost a cantilever that puts the strap in a position where it hangs properly. And then we use the old Dunlop style strap locks, and I recessed them
Yeah.
into the body so that they're not hanging out, and then recess the jack plate and back plate and everything like that.
Mhm.
So you can see that it's all done and fitted up. The bridge is an old 60s, early 70s Fender Music Master bridge, and you can see the holes where it originally would have been stringed through.
Mhm.
But the problem with that is when you do string through and there are silks on the strings, the silks would end up going over the saddles.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that. And I like having the strings go through the body because it gives you more sustain and a deeper tone. Now, an interesting thing about this is I drilled the bridge and I put ferrules in the back, had it all ready to go, went to put the strings on, and these are rotosounds, and the silks on the top were right on the nut. Now I thought, is this guy going to have to cut the silks off every string he ever puts on it? No. So what I did was I recessed the ferrules in the back.
Yeah.
The exact distance I needed to put the silks just past the nut.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Because that was done by hand.
Yeah.
Well, it was all done. I mean, everything on this thing was done by hand, but to be done and excited to put strings on and then have a stupid thing like that, just because Rotosound runs the silks a little farther down on their strings than everybody else. But ultimately it worked out well. And smart viewers will notice that the string tree is actually a PRS strap button.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That if you go look at your PRS
Yeah.
and look at your strap button, that's what that is.
Yeah.
And Paul started using these because he started using early Fender string retainers as strap buttons. So it's full circle.
Yeah.
So anyway, so there's that. So entertain them while I put this away.
So the pickup, the bass is kind of vibing that the early 50s precisions.
Yes. Yeah. It's basically what I did was took a left-handed precision with right-handed intention.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the pickup is wound at, can't quite remember, but I think it's around 7, maybe 6.85.
How does that compare to the original Fender pickups?
No, it's a little stronger.
Yeah.
It's a little bit stronger.
It would have to be, I would think.
Let's see here. He wrote it down for me, but I don't know where I put it. So, but anyway, yeah, when, like all the specs and everything, it's got 2 Alnico 5 magnets and 2 Alnico 2 magnets. So it works very, very well. It's not humbucking.
Yeah.
But that's not really important when you're using the signal path that these guys use. My thought is I've been working on a project for an add-on part that you can put on any instrument, not just a guitar, but a bass, any sort of electric instrument with a magnetic pickup that would take a traditional single coil guitar and make it humbucking. And I'm at prototype phase right now. And when I get there, my friend Seymour Duncan and I have been talking about this for years and years and years. And if I can get this to work, then I will enter in with them and we will produce this thing. And the idea is that you could take a traditional vintage guitar and just by soldering 2 connections or 3, not quite sure yet, but by just adding this into the circuit, but not altering the circuit that you're adding it into, and not taking anything away from the instrument. If we can make the instrument humbucking, then it'll work. I play in a lot of crappy bars with really, really bad power. And so we use a Furman PL8 power conditioner and run the PA and the whole, all the stage gear and everything off of the Furman. And that takes care of some of it. But whenever you have neon or fish tanks, good Lord, fish tanks, whenever you have that, then you're going to have hum, and a single coil pickup is going to hum. I mean, the whole idea of a single coil pickup, the earliest pickups that were used on electric guitars just had a series of bar or pole magnets with a coil with string with 42 gauge, 41 gauge wire about the thickness of a human hair wrapped around there. Let's say 20,000 turns arbitrarily. And so a single coil pickup, what it does is it gives you above the pole piece, it gives you a cone of opportunity, not unlike the shape of this pick.
Yeah.
So then a string that's hooked up to ground, when everything's all grounded, a string passing through this field of opportunity, when it vibrates, it changes the current running through the coil,
Mhm.
and that goes down to the amplifier, and the amplifier takes that change in current and converts it to a tone.
Yeah.
Um, in the late 50s, the Gibson company, um, Ted McCarty was a fellow that ran Gibson, and he was tired of the complaints that the guitars were buzzing in some of the dance halls. Well, neon had become popular, and jukeboxes were usually close to the band's
Yeah.
the bandstand, and so and you didn't have like grounded current. Everything was two conductor back then, and so there was all this RF confusion, and the pickups were picking them up.
Yeah.
So there was a fellow working in the amp department at Gibson by the name of Seth Lover, and he was tasked with the job of eliminating the hum. And so his idea was to take two coils, and I will find a humbucking pickup here somewhere. I have them everywhere except for when I need one. There are parts strewn about the place. Strewn about the place. Let me pull one of my new Carondelet pickups out then. Okay. These are Greg Buckers from Carondelet. This is my own design. And Jeffrey Shard, the fine man that he is.
That's the guy down in New Orleans.
Yes, I've known him for many years, and I like him.
Okay.
And we had long talks, and I used to wind and pickups, and I actually don't even have my winder anymore. I got rid of it because it's such a pain in the ass.
Mhm.
All right, so this is a basically what a humbucking pickup looks like underneath the cover. A lot of them will have a fancy cover, but let's just assume that the black coil was the original coil, and we'll say it was wound clockwise. 20,000 turns of 42 gauge Formvar lacquer covered wire. All right. Well, what Mr. Lover decided to do was to get rid of the 60 cycle hum. He wanted to make a negative 60 cycle hum. So this coil is wound counterclockwise.
All right.
And originally what they did was they just wound the wire onto the coils as much as they could get on there. It wasn't anywhere near as precise as it is now. But the idea is that this one had a positive hum. This had a negative hum. When wired in series, it bucked the humbucking pickup.
Yeah. Yep.
And then they had the idea of putting fancy covers on them, and I have them laying everywhere except for handy right now, so we're not going to worry about the covers. But you've seen humbucking pickups, and there'll be like a chrome or gold cover with just one series of pole pieces. These were adjustable to take into account different string volumes. This coil, it wasn't even bothered. And I'd say 90% of the people in the world do not even touch these screws. I'd say probably 89% don't even realize that if you raise and lower a pickup, you alter the tone completely.
Yeah.
I've had so many people down through the years that came to me and they wanted a louder pickup than what was in their guitar. And their guitar had a fairly strongly wound pickup, but the string was here. That was a lousy choice of a string. We'll use this. The string was here and the coil was right there. Well, the proximity effect is the closer the string is to the pickup, the louder it is, the more compressed it is, the farther away it is, the cleaner and more articulate it is, because there's a secondary flux that comes around the sides of the coils, blah, blah, blah. We're not going to get involved in that. Suffice it to say, if your guitar is not quite loud enough, raise your pickups. That's why they're adjustable. If your pickup is too hot, drop it down a little bit. All right. So do that before you make changes, especially if it's a vintage instrument.
On a side note with this, there are some things that I will tell everybody that I come and like I teach, as you know. Kids are like, what should I get on a guitar? Well, the first thing you got to get a guitar that has a humbucking pickup on it. That is my opinion, because they're coming in wanting to learn all the Green Day or whatever it is. A lot of the heavy metal sounds or a lot of the bluesy, whatever.
That is going to use distortion. You got to have a humbucker.
Yeah. And I'm not taking anything, because a lot of their parents get them Strats. Like they don't know what they're getting. They go to whatever store, and the stores have boxes of you can get a guitar and an amp, and it's a single coil, but that's not.
That's because single coil pickups are cheaper to make than humbuckers.
Yeah.
And the Strat being the most popular electric guitar of all time, it's it's a lot of your budget guitars or your Squires or whatever. My old store, BCR Music, we picked up a line several years ago when I still owned the store called Tajima. And Tajima makes the instruments. It's a Brazilian company, but they design stuff and have it made in China. And then from Brazil, it gets sent up to the United States. And the most high quality Stratocaster style guitars. In fact, I own one. I don't even like Strats, and one got damaged in shipping, and it was not an easy fix, but something I could do. And I contacted them and said, instead of sending this back, just why don't you send me another one and I'll fix this one and we can use it as a loaner. And they went for it. So I fixed the neck. And then when people were considering one of these guitars, I would give it to them. And then I would also take it to shows. And people would see me playing, $10,000 vintage guitar. And then I would pick up this $300 or $200 guitar. I don't know what they are now. They're probably like $249 or $299, whatever it is. But anyway, and I would play this guitar and people go, wow, that guitar sounds really, really good. They had no idea that it was really a budget guitar. And so, yeah, I mean, it's easy to start with that. The cool thing is hot rodding. You can always.
That's what I was going to say. Well, the other part of this is when we say single coils, not all single coils are built the same way.
No.
Okay, because Seymour Duncan, when we first started hearing about him, he was like whining stuff for Jeff Beck, and more. You're friends with him.
Yeah.
You know more about his history. Like before he was a nationwide guy, he was just the guitar guru for all the big dudes.
Right. Yeah, he actually wound a set of pickups for Jimi Hendrix when he was a kid.
Okay.
That really dates Seymour. He's not a young man.
Yeah,
but, yeah, he actually wound a set of pickups for Seymour for Jimmy and
Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, Jimi Hendrix's single coils are not the single coils. I don't know.
Well, and
different levels of Fender have different levels of pickup.
Hendrix was a genius. He was an absolute genius, but he was a noisy mess. I mean, he and Roger Mayer would make these crazy pedals, and they'd have coiled cables hooking them all together. And
mad scientists.
One of the reasons that Jimi Hendrix used a coiled cable, and a lot of people are not aware of this, is a coiled cable is just basically a big long resistor or a capacitor, and what it does is it just filters out the high frequency. So he would use a coiled cable from the guitar to whatever was on the floor, and then a coiled cable from there back to the amp, and then the amps would be connected with coiled cables. If you look at the old photographs. And the idea was that they were attenuating the high end, and that was cutting down on the buzz.
You think Hendrix knew about that?
Yeah, I think he and Roger Mayer spent a lot of time worrying about that.
Roger Mayer is his.
He was the guy that made a lot of those effects, like the Univibe and Fuzz Face. And
Okay.
And Roger Mayer was a genius, and I mean, he invented floor pedals.
So do you think Hendrix was like engineering savvy?
No, I don't think he was engineering savvy at all, but he knew what he wanted.
Roger Mayer.
Yeah, he was more clothes savvy, but he knew what he liked. And if you watch this, his career went along, you'll see more and more coiled cables. And if you think about it, he's using more and more gain devices into Marshalls without master volumes. So just the noise floor, if you listen to any of the live bootleg stuff, the noise floor is obscene. He'll turn the volume down and just check his tuning. And you'll just hear this. And back then the PA systems were so bad that really PAs just got the vocals out there, and you carried your volume from the stage. So, Jimmy had 400 Marshalls and like, Yngwie Malmsteen.
Yes.
But they had a lot of stuff on stage, and poor drummers a lot of times were in front of this shit. So they're getting their hair's blowing straight forward as they're playing. And the drummers had to carry themselves into the room. So you listen to some of the drummers in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, these guys were killers because there weren't that many mics. There might have been an overhead or so on there, but you didn't have what we have now with triggers and mics on every drum head and everything like that. And those guys pulled it off. And as sound systems got more sophisticated, noise became more and more of a problem. Electronics, just in general, like home electronic, the way your house is wired, thanks to Underwriters Laboratories, is much safer. And now we have a common ground system. And now we have a polarized system where when you plug into the wall, you notice that one of the conductors is fatter than the other. So you can't go in reverse polarity and kill yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas old amps had a polarity switch on the back of them for the two conductor, so that, let's say, like at my house, the left-hand conductor was ground, and Rod, at your house, the right-hand conductor was ground. So we had to be able to flip the polarity on our amps so that when we went to the mic, we didn't get stung. Or if we touched each other, we didn't get stung. And so as sound systems got better, PA systems got better, and the audience's ear got better, then noise became a problem. And the irony is that humbucking pickups came about in the 50s, but the real advantage didn't happen until the late 60s, early 70s, when you had guys like Jeff Beck and John Sebastian and Keith Richards and Jimmy Page, and the idea of a Les Paul into a Marshall, overdriving the crap out of the front end of a Marshall. The idea of making an amp become inefficient added to the tone. So, and that's a whole nother
Say that again. Making the guitar,
making the amp inefficient.
And okay, that's cool.
Yeah, basically, efficiency is now part of the tone, and now there are 10 million overdrive or distortion pedals or plugins. There's a million ways to make your system sound like it's not working right.
Yeah.
And when we distort the signal, we clip it, we take the high and low off of the sine wave, and I'll draw up demonstrations for that. But the important thing is we add compression and we add square wave. So we're adding all kinds of harmonics, and we're adding sustain because we're squashing the signal because we're putting way too much into a small area. So that's what the compression is. And essentially the sound of the guitar has changed so much. This idea, the humbucking pickup, the idea was that they could be loud and clean, but ultimately it created more power because now you had twice the windings.
It's not only, it's important, and those who know, but it's important to note that humbucking pickup doesn't sound like a single coil with no hum. It has its own tone altogether.
No, because you're sensing a much longer. If I don't know what I did with my visual aid. There we go. If this is a string going over the pickup, then instead of sensing one point right there above the coil, we're actually sensing, a little over an inch. So there's a lot of harmonic information in there that we're picking up now. So it's a fatter sound. And then of course, magnet technology, this pickup, there's a bar magnet underneath. And these pole pieces are touching the magnet. So instead of the poles themselves being the magnets, these are just Philister head screws and slugs. And then underneath we have a bar magnet. If I peel this up, you can see it. Well, no, you can't because, whatever. Oh, I'm getting a text. All right. So yes, that's my bike. When I get a text, you hear one of my bikes. Another thing about modern humbucking pickups is we've got 4 conductor wiring, and so with this,
the Seth Lover 1950 whatever,
it just had a hot and a ground, braided wire. Whereas nowadays what we can do is, using either push-pull switches or toggle switches, we can select which coil we have on it, which combination, and whether they're series or parallel, and we'll get into that at a later time. But this pickup is wired essentially where we have black goes to ground, and I'm sorry, black is hot, green goes to ground, and there's the ground shield right there, and then the join between the two coils is the red and white, and they are together. And then if I were to touch this to ground, it would short out one of the coils, and we'll talk about that at a later time. But the bottom line is we have so many choices available to us. And ironically enough, in 2022, we still, with every choice that we have electronically, with plugins, with pedals, with guitars and stuff like that, you still can't sound just like Jimi Hendrix. You still can't sound just like Jimmy Page because there's several factors involved in their tone that we have no control over.
Yes.
Number one, the power going to their stuff was severely lacking. So their amps were very inefficient. Number two, the way the stuff was recorded was very inefficient. I can't tell you how many people come in and tell me they want a really fat PAF tone. Now, the original humbuckers from Gibson had a sticker on the bottom that said patent applied for.
Yeah. It's PAF.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they were designed to replicate the sound of a P90, which is a very bright sounding single coil. And so early PAFs are not fat at all. And people will talk about like Eric Clapton with the Blues Breakers, the Beano album, and he was using a Marshall JTM 45. And it was set on stun, and then it overdrove the mixing board and compressed, and when it went onto the tape, so you have tape saturation. So that fat tone that Clapton was getting was between his hands and the amp, excuse me, and the way it was recorded. So when people come to me and they say, I want a really fat PAF tone, I say, well, which do you want? A PAF tone or a fat tone? And nowadays there's just so many choices and so many ways to do things. And you know, it really is a good time to be alive.
Yeah. You were talking about like sound through the ages. Since we last talked, I think I saw Paul McCartney.
Oh yeah, I didn't go. How was that?
That was wonderful. It was like religious experience number 2. I went to the pilgrimage kind of deal.
Yeah, I've seen him several times, and the guy's 80 years old, and not even Dave Grohl can keep up with that guy.
Yeah.
He is just so energetic and good.
Yeah, so he's a lead guitar, he's a bass guitar player, he played ukulele, he played mandolin on a song, he played piano. Six instruments. But the reason I'm bringing this up is one of the reasons certainly has to be the Beatles, like after Revolver, they stopped going on the road.
Right.
Okay. Now there's probably multiple reasons, certainly, but one of the big reasons.
One major, Yoko.
This is way before Yoko, though.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So before going on the road, one of the reasons they stopped, certainly, they were creating stuff that once they took it to the road, people couldn't hear it the way it was intended.
Right.
So it's interesting to see the progress. Like the 70s at the PA, they started getting better and better and better and better. And I remember as a kid, rock shows were definitely loud.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm paying for that now.
Yeah. Rock shows were definitely loud. And that's part of what you expected it. And it's like your ears were ringing for a couple days afterwards. All right.
Your first concert. What was your first premium concert? Not like seeing a band at Hershey Park or anything, but what was your first real pro band?
Scorpions and Fastway. Fast Eddie Clark was my first.
No fooling.
Yeah. Was my first.
Where was that?
City Island.
No fooling.
Yeah. That was my first concert. To Fast Eddie Clark, Dave King. He's now an Irishman. He always was, but
I think I'd say he was born an Irishman.
Yeah, Flogging Molly now.
Yeah,
he's the first front man I ever saw.
Mine was at the Rectum in Philly, the Spectrum in Philly, and it was Ted Nugent, supported by Scorpions and Def Leppard on their first American tour.
Oh wow!
And we were in like row 13. And this friend of mine, Scott Smith, he dated one of my sisters, or actually might have dated both of my sisters. But anyway, he skateboarded with me and some of my friends, and he had a driver's license, so he could borrow a car from his dad. And I was 14. It's 1978. I was 14.
Okay.
And so he was 16 or 17, whatever.
It's amazing that Def Leppard's been around that long.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, we're sitting there. Yeah, we're sitting there, we're all stoked, and then boom, it goes dark, the crowd goes nuts, and Def Leppard came out, and so this was the first pro band that I ever saw,
This is
and
Mark.
they came out with On Through the Night, and it was amazing, and they had these really cool Hamer guitars, and and they had this. It was funny. They all had the same permed hair. They all looked like mushrooms,
Yeah, yeah.
and but they were
Was
they
that
were
a High and
great.
Dry? That was the High and Dry tour?
No, it was On Through the Night. It was the first record.
Okay, so they had the song On Through the Night.
I think that's no. They started with banana. Well, anyway,
Let It Go.
Let It Go. And
That's
it came out,
that's High and Dry.
yeah, and I guess it was High and Dry then.
Yeah.
And we just went like, wow, this is cool. And I just remember like we had seen so many photographs of pro bands on stage,
Yeah.
and we all fantasized about it, and like we set up our shit in our parents' garages and we acted like we were pros, but to actually see a real concert and the huge PA speakers and the lights and everything like that, and they came out and they were great, and we thought, wow, that was just unbelievable. And then Scorpions came out and they were mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I mean, they were so tight.
This is Blackout era.
Yeah, and the vocals and everything like that. And it wasn't Uli Roth.
Matthias Jabs.
It was Matthias, yeah. And
Jabs.
just an amazing guitar player. And when they were done, we're like, oh my God, how could it Nugent's gonna suck after these guys. And there was this enormous scream through that PA system, and a spotlight went up on top of the PA.
He swung down on a vine.
He came down on a rope, yeah, wearing a loincloth with a tail on it, a raccoon tail. And he came down and he picked up a guitar and he started playing. And I just went, oh, this is what I want to do. And I was a huge Beatles fan.
Uh-huh.
But when I heard an old Gibson Birdland through a whole pile of distorted amps, he had Fender Twins on top of 215 cabinets, and everything was just dimed. And we were getting stage volume as much as PA because we were in row 13. And I'm telling you, I melted. It was so damn loud.
Fender Twin is a stupidly loud amplifier.
Oh yeah, yeah, and 6 of them on top of 6 215 cabinets.
That amp went to 11.
Oh, it went to 14.
Yeah.
And but I mean, there it was. That night changed my life. It changed the direction. Like when I first heard the Beatles, that changed me a lot because I realized I could be creative and it could be interesting. And then Queen. I heard Queen and I thought, wow, they took the Beatles thing and they went even farther. Yeah. But Nugent I mean,
that's when Nugent was cool.
Yeah, yeah. Now he's a freaking asshole.
Yeah. But I saw him twice. I think once he opened for Kiss, maybe.
Okay.
And then he did with REO Speedwagon and Styx, maybe a show like that in New York. And both times I think one of our things is don't insult your audience.
No,
that's a rule for me.
Don't give them a reason to not come back.
Yeah. In other words, if they are not your people, you shouldn't be playing for them. In other words, if you feel that strongly about,
or if they're not your people, you should make it that they want to be your people.
Yeah.
But if they're clearly not your people, don't.
But he insulted everybody.
Yeah, don't make them feel bad because they're not your people.
If you drank beer, he made you feel inferior. I'm not. Whatever advice you had, he poked at you.
Yeah, I think it's a shame.
And that's what he turned into, and it's like, that's not why we came here.
No, we want to be entertained. I want to leave with a big stupid grin on my face. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be worried about who I'm voting for or what issues. I mean, I remember early U2. I loved the early U2 stuff, and then they became political, and I lost all interest. I don't care how good their music is. I'm just not interested.
Yeah.
I just don't want anybody to tell me who I should vote for, or what I should think. That's up to me.
Yeah.
And so I look at music as joy bringing.
Yeah,
And
I
so,
see protest songs. There's a part of me that is that way. You should say what's on your mind,
sure.
where the line is, it's like if your audience, if you berate your audience, I don't think I don't think that's a good practice to do.
Well, and I think a protest
If
song,
you find yourself in a room full of people who don't feel well matched with, you can do one of two things. I don't think you're not going to necessarily sway them to your side. They are who they are. You can either adapt to them or find your own tribe. You shouldn't be there in the first place, is what I'm saying.
yeah, and you know, I think there's a disrespect when you're dealing with somebody and they have an agenda and they refuse to allow you to have your own agenda. I think that's incredibly disrespectful.
Mhm.
And like I used to hang out with Ted, and he's ridiculously funny. He's
I hear he's a good
extremely
guy in real
clever.
life.
He's a great guy, but I just not interested in hanging out with him now.
Yeah,
You know, if he wants some guitar work done, I'll do it. But
yeah.
I want to feel good. And if you question why I do what I do, I'm not going to feel good. So, you know, there are those that I have no problem getting into an intercourse with, a discourse with about, you know, politics or, you know, opinion or what have you. But when it comes to entertainment,
Yeah.
I just want to relax and have a good time, man. You know, shut up and dance.
Yeah.
And some great entertainers have basically, you know, become a problem. And I need to say today, the Supreme Court just overturned Roe versus Wade, and to me, that's a huge problem.
Same.
But am I going to write a song about it? If I would write a protest song, I think the protest song should be a good song that hints at the problem. And I think that makes a lot more sense than me writing a song that says Joe Biden smells bad, you know, or Trump farts when he walks upstairs. I mean, nobody cares.
Taking shots at people is not a protest song. Not a good protest.
Yeah. And like, you know, Creedence Clearwater Revival. That's hard to say. You know, I ain't no senator's son. I mean, that song's still relevant because he didn't pick an exact point in time and aim it at it. For what it's worth by
Springfield.
Yeah, that song doesn't pick a time, but it references things.
You know, and Stephen Stills, did he know in 1966, 67 that it was going to be a timeless song? I bet
I hope he put the thought into it to make it timeless. I would.
Well, I would hope.
Very intelligent man.
Well, I know, but I would hope more for the world.
Yeah,
that some of these things get fixed.
Yeah, and the shame is that the better things get, the worse things get. Because in some ways, there are all kinds of issues in politics that should be addressed that are being glossed over because politicians seem to go for the easy targets instead of, you know, changing if you have a guitar that doesn't stay in tune, just changing the strings, that might not be fixing the problem. The neck might be loose.
Yeah.
And if the neck is loose, you're going to have to do a significant amount of work to make that better. But if you do that, if you make sure that the neck is now solid and everything is doing what it should, then for centuries, that guitar is going to be good. And the quick fix is rarely the good fix. And you know, around here we say good enough is never good enough.
Yeah, that's the way to be.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But so tonight I'm gonna play bass with the Grant Bryan Band, and tomorrow night I'm gonna play bass with the Grant Bryan Band. Tonight I'm in New Holland, PA, for the I-105 showdown or whatever. Basically, people yell for who they like the best, and then tomorrow we play the Walnut Bottom Fair, and it's down near Shippensburg.
Okay, so they're Walnut, PA.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a good time. I'm looking forward to getting back on stage.
As a bass player.
As a bass player, yeah.
That's fun.
I have played bass for many, many years. I used to do a lot of studio work, and I've played bass for a long time. But in live performance, it never was even anything I was interested in doing, and I'm really enjoying it. It's
a fun thing. It's a different
drastically
thing.
different. Oh yeah, it's drastically
Yeah.
different. It requires a different thought process. I mean, you have to almost become a different person
Uh-huh.
to excel at lead guitar and being a lead vocalist and playing bass. No less important, but a totally different thought process.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
someday I'll learn how to play drums, and then I can yell at my drummer.
Yes,
So,
yes,
but now I can yell at my bass player.
yes.
Yeah. But anyway,
Yes.
so that should probably be it for us today.
Yes, I am going to give a shout out. We were supposed to do this last week. This is BOOMPOP. I'm going to put in the Greg Platzer guitars. This is BOOMPOP. This is the book that I finished at the brink of world pandemic. And we're supposed to do some sort of big, like, hey, this is existing. This is my how I teach kind of book. So
And where can we get this book?
we can get this on Amazon. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place this on Amazon, or if you study with me, you'll get one of these. Okay.
Right.
I have students. I teach. If you study with me, you can get one of these. But you can get them on Amazon. I will put the link in our description today.
How about your website?
And I think on my website too.
Which is
rodgoelz.com.
spell Goelz.
OELZ. I'll put the link there too.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm helping you promote yourself, sir.
Yes. So that is BOOMPOP. My
I want a signed one.
yeah. I was supposed to bring you one. BOOMPOP. My method, my way of seeing music. So anyway, if anybody cares, somebody cares.
I care.
Yes, Greg cares. So anyway, see everybody. Be good to each other.
Be good to each other. God bless y'all.
Be good to each other. Till next time. Episode 10.
In the bag.
In the bag.